Millionaire marries a paralyzed black woman unknown. She'd miraculously walk again. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from today. In San Diego, California, a big and shiny city where rich people live in tall houses and wear fancy clothes, there was a man named Derek Winslow. He was super rich and had everything: big houses, fast cars, and a lot of money. But even with all those things, he felt sad. Why? Because no one really loved him for who he was. Everyone just liked his money. Callie Rivers was a young woman who used to dance and be very happy. She loved spinning and jumping on stage, but one day, something very sad happened. She had a bad accident, and now she had to use a wheelchair. People looked at her and thought she was weak and couldn't do much anymore. But Callie was strong inside. She didn't want to give up. She wanted to be happy again, no matter what. One night, there was a big party in a huge room called a ballroom. The room sparkled with lights, and people in fancy clothes danced and laughed. Derek stood near the crowd holding a glass of juice. He looked handsome but sad. Many women tried to talk to him, but he didn't care. He didn't feel happy at all. Callie was also at the party. She sat in her wheelchair near some big, pretty flowers. Her dress was simple, not shiny like the others. She didn't want anyone to feel sorry for her. A waiter came and offered her a drink, but she said no. She didn't want pity. Suddenly, a man who had drunk too much juice stumbled and almost fell on Callie. His glass was about to spill all over her. But guess what? Derek quickly stepped in and stopped the glass from spilling on her. Callie looked up and said sharply, "You don't need to play hero. I'm not someone who needs saving." Derek smiled a little and said, "I never said you did." Callie crossed her arms and huffed, "Oh, please, I know this act. You don't impress me." But Derek didn't get upset. He leaned in and said softly, "Good thing I'm not trying to impress you. I just didn't want to clean up spilled juice." Callie was surprised. He wasn't being fake or too nice. He wasn't trying to treat her like she was broken, and that made her curious. "Why are you talking to me?" she asked. "There are so many other girls here." Derek looked around and said, "They're boring. You're not." That made Callie blink. It was like a breeze hitting her face. She didn't know what to say. As the party went on, Derek stayed close. He told little jokes that made her smile, even if she tried not to. He didn't treat her like she was helpless. He just talked to her like a regular person, and Callie liked that feeling. Later, as the party ended, Derek and Callie sat in a quiet corner. Derek looked serious and leaned forward. "I need to ask you something," he said. Callie frowned. "If it's about my wheelchair, don't bother." "No," Derek said. "It's about me. My grandfather died last month and left me everything, his company, his house, and all his money. But there's one rule. I must get married in 6 months, or I lose everything." Callie's eyes widened. "And what does that have to do with me?" "I want to marry you," Derek said, just like that. Callie laughed in shock. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he said. "You don't care about my money. You don't try to impress me. And I think you need this too." Callie's heart pounded. He didn't know about her mean stepmother who told her she had to leave soon unless she proved she was useful. Callie was scared. She didn't have a home. She didn't have money. She didn't want to say yes. But she also didn't want to be homeless. "Why me?" she asked. "Because you don't want me," he said. "That's why I trust you." Callie wanted to say no, but her stepmother's voice echoed in her mind. "Be useful or be gone." "I'll think about it," she whispered. "Don't take too long," Derek said. Days passed. Callie thought about Derek's offer every night. She remembered how he looked at her, not with pity, but with respect. She hated that it made her feel warm inside. Finally, one night, she picked up her phone and called him. "Fine," she said. "I'll do it." Soon there was a big party to celebrate the engagement. It was at Derek's huge house. Everything sparkled: walls, lights, tables, even the glasses. Callie sat beside Derek, trying not to shake. She wore a long, dark blue dress. Derek stood next to her, calm and quiet. People whispered as they looked at her. Some were curious, some were jealous. Callie felt all their eyes like tiny pokes. A fancy-looking woman came close, bent down, and whispered in Callie's ear, "Do you really think he'd marry you if he knew the truth?" Callie's heart thumped. She turned to ask the woman what she meant, but the lady was gone. Derek leaned closer. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Yes," Callie said. But her mind raced. What truth? The wedding day came. The sun shone brightly through the windows. Callie sat in front of a big mirror in a fancy room. Her white wedding dress was pretty and soft. Her hair was done up nicely, but she felt like she was pretending to be someone else. Downstairs, Derek wore a black suit and looked sharp. He fixed his tie and thought about Callie. He had spent weeks getting to know her. She was brave and strong, not like the girls who only cared about his money. A small part of him wanted to really care for her. The wedding was in a beautiful garden. White chairs were everywhere. People sat and waited. Callie rolled down the aisle in her wheelchair. A helper pushed her gently. She held her head high. Derek stood waiting. When she reached him, he bent down and whispered, "You look amazing." Callie gave him a look. "I don't need sweet words," she said. "It's not sweet words. It's the truth," Derek said. The wedding man began the vows. It was short and simple. "I, Derek Winslow, take you, Callie Rivers, to be my wife." He placed a ring on her finger slowly. Callie's heart jumped. "I, Callie Rivers, take you, Derek Winslow." She looked into his eyes, wondering what she was really agreeing to. Everyone clapped. Callie didn't feel very happy. Derek held out his arm. She hesitated, then put her hand on it. "We did it," he whispered. "Yeah," she said. "Lucky us." The party took Callie and Derek into a big fancy room. The lights sparkled from big shiny chandeliers, and the long tables were filled with food and drinks. People were laughing and talking, and everyone looked happy. Callie sat at the front table in her wheelchair. Derek sat right next to her. He was calm and quiet in all the noise around them. Derek leaned over and gave her a glass of water. "You don't seem like someone who likes champagne," he said with a small smile. Callie raised one eyebrow and took the glass. "You're learning quickly," she said, taking a sip. She started to notice how he gently told people not to crowd around her. He was polite, but he kept them away. "You don't have to take care of me," Callie said in a dry voice. "I'm not," Derek answered, looking into her eyes. "I just don't like people who act like vultures." Callie let out a little laugh and gave him a small smile. The night went on. Music played, people danced, and laughter filled the room. After a few hours, Callie felt tired. She quietly left the party and rolled her wheelchair down a quiet hallway. The noise of the party faded behind her. She stopped near a big doorway. That's when she heard something that made her freeze. Two men were talking just ahead. Their voices were low but angry. "She wasn't supposed to get hurt," one man said, sounding upset. "Winslow was the one we wanted. She was just in the way." "Too late now," the other man said. "She's still around, and now he's really protecting her." Callie felt her blood turn cold. Her hands gripped her wheelchair. The memory of her accident rushed back, the loud crash, the pain, the darkness. She always thought it was just bad luck, but now she knew. It wasn't an accident. Someone had tried to hurt Derek, and she got hurt instead. Her heart was pounding. Who were those men? Did Derek know? Could she even trust him? She didn't tell him. Not yet. Weeks went by. Their new life as a married couple was quiet, but not easy. Derek surprised her with kind things. He carried her upstairs when the elevator wasn't working. His arms felt strong and gentle. "You don't have to do this," Callie would say. "You're lighter than you think," Derek would smile, setting her down carefully. In the mornings, they sat in the kitchen. The coffee smelled nice and steam floated in the air. "What are you thinking about today?" Derek asked one morning, standing by the counter with his sleeves rolled up. "Nothing important," Callie would answer. "Try me," he'd say kindly. Then Callie would talk about books, the city, or silly little things, but never about the big secret. One rainy night, Callie sat in her chair by the window. The world outside looked blurry through the rain. The lights inside made the room warm and cozy. Derek knelt beside her and put a blanket over her legs. "You're cold," he said, gently touching her knee. Callie froze, feeling the warmth in his hands. "I can manage," she said, but her voice was soft and shaky. "I know you can." Derek whispered, his hand staying on her leg a little longer. Their eyes met. The air between them felt heavy, like something big was about to happen. Callie leaned in a little and Derek didn't move away. His hand slid up to her cheek. "Callie," he started to say, his voice rough. "Don't," she whispered, but she didn't pull away. Just then, thunder crashed outside. Callie jumped and backed away. Her heart was racing. Derek let her go, his face tight and quiet. The next day, something happened that broke her heart. Callie rolled into the study looking for Derek. She stopped when she saw him by the window. Standing next to him was Tessa, his ex-fiancée. She had blonde hair and perfect looks. She laughed and touched Derek's arm. "You were always so stubborn," Tessa said with a sweet voice. Derek didn't laugh, but he didn't move away either. "Some things never change," he said, his voice flat. Callie's stomach twisted. She had seen Tessa's pictures before. This was the woman Derek had once loved. Was this why Derek had been so kind to her? Was it all a game? The secret about her accident burned inside her. Maybe Derek knew all along. Maybe she was just a piece in a big plan. She turned away, her hands shaking. She locked herself in her room, filled with sadness and doubt. The next morning, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She found Derek in the kitchen, calmly pouring coffee like nothing had happened. "We need to talk," she said coldly. Derek looked up, confused. "What's wrong?" "You tell me," she snapped. "Tessa, yesterday, what was that?" Derek's eyes widened, then softened. "Callie, it's not... Don't lie to me," she shouted. "And there's more. I heard something about my accident. It wasn't just an accident, Derek. It was meant for you." Derek turned pale. He forgot all about his coffee. "What are you talking about?" he asked, scared. So Callie opened her mouth to tell him everything. The men, the plan, the fear. But suddenly the room spun. Her head felt dizzy. Her hands slipped from her wheels. "Derek," she gasped before falling. He called her name, but the world went dark. Weeks passed. The penthouse felt quiet and heavy. Only the soft sounds of workers in the far-off city filled the space. Callie woke up in a hospital room. The smell of medicine was strong. Her arms felt heavy. She saw Derek standing by the window. His back was to her, but she could see he looked worried. When she moved a little, he turned. His gray eyes looked tired. "You scared me," he said in a quiet voice, walking to her bed. Callie pushed herself up and winced. "I'm fine," she muttered, trying to sound strong. "What happened?" Derek ran his hand through his hair. "They don't know yet," he said. "Maybe it was stress, maybe not drinking enough water. Your body crashed. They're still trying to find out why." Then he looked at her seriously. "You were about to tell me something about your accident. What was it, Callie?" Her throat tightened. She remembered the voices. Winslow was the target. But then she saw Tessa in her mind, laughing, touching Derek. She looked away. "Nothing," she said. "Just forget it." Derek frowned. "Callie, if something's wrong, I need to know. We're in this together." "Are we?" Callie snapped, her eyes sharp. "I said forget it, this Derek." He looked at her for a long time. Then he sighed and stepped back. "All right," he said softly, "but I'm not going anywhere." The quiet between them felt thin like a string ready to break. Callie hated how his gentle words made her chest hurt. A few days later, back at home, a letter came. It was plain and had no name on it. Callie's hands shook as she opened it. "I've been watching you, Miss Rivers. I can help you walk again. Meet me tomorrow at 3 p.m. at St. Clair's Clinic. Tell no one." Her breath caught, her heart beat fast. Was this real? A trick? Or her one chance? She touched the paper, her mind spinning. She hadn't had hope in a long time, but now it whispered to her again. The next morning, she wheeled into the kitchen. Derek was there with his coffee, his sleeves rolled up. I'm going out, she said, trying to sound casual. Want company? He asked, looking at her with kind eyes. No, she said too fast. Then she smiled a little. Just me today. He nodded but watched her closely. Be careful, okay? She gave him a smile and left. St. Clair's clinic was an old building far from the city. The paint was peeling and the sign looked faded. Inside, a man was waiting. He looked about 40, with sharp blue eyes and a white coat. Miss Rivers, he said, reaching out his hand. I'm Dr. Elias Mira. I've been following your case for years. Callie rolled closer, her eyes narrowed. My case? What does that mean? Callie's body felt very tired. Her legs couldn't hold her anymore. She cried out and started to fall, but Derek was fast. He caught her just in time and shouted, Callie! Then everything went dark. Later, the soft sound of machines filled the hospital room. Callie slowly opened her eyes. The bright lights above made her blink. She felt very tired and her legs hurt, but she was alive. She was still here. She remembered trying to stand and the look of surprise on Derek's face. It felt like a dream. She turned her head and saw Derek sitting beside her bed. He looked tired. His dark hair was messy, and his fancy jacket was folded on the chair. His hand was very close to hers, and even in his sleep, his fingers moved like they were looking for her. Seeing him made her feel warm inside. He moved when she moved. His gray eyes opened quickly and looked right at her. His eyes were full of feelings. Callie, he said, sitting up fast. His voice was full of relief. You're awake. Thank God, she said. Her throat felt dry. Yeah, I'm here. What happened this time? Derek asked, rubbing his face. He looked really tired. You pushed too hard, you tried to stand, and your body wasn't ready. The doctors said it was too much. Your body shut down, but you're safe now. He moved closer and took a deep breath. You stood, Callie. You really stood. I still can't believe it. She gave a small smile. Neither can I. It felt like a dream. Derek reached for her hand. He touched her gently, like he was afraid she might disappear. When you fell, he whispered, I thought I lost you again. I couldn't handle that. I don't care if you never walk again. I just want you here, alive, with me. Callie looked at him. Her heart beat fast. You really mean that? Even after everything? After Tessa? After all the secrets? Yes, he said quickly. His hand held hers tighter. His eyes looked serious. I've been so stupid. I let Tessa stay around. I didn't see what you were going through. But it's you, Callie. It's always been you, whether you walk or not. Callie felt her breath catch. His words broke through the wall around her heart. I thought you were only staying because of the will. Or maybe you felt sorry for me. Pity? Derek laughed softly. No, Callie. I stayed because I love you. I should have told you a long time ago. His words felt like a warm light inside her. Derek? She said, her voice shaking. Tears filled her eyes. He touched her cheek gently. His thumb brushed her skin in a soft, kind way. I'm done with the past, he said. Tessa is gone. I fired her this morning. I cut all ties. It's just us now. Callie's eyebrows went up. A laugh came out, even though she was surprised. You fired her? For real? Yep, Derek said, smiling a little. Right to her face, she yelled, but I didn't care. She's nothing compared to you. Callie shook her head and laughed, but the tight feeling in her chest started to go away. You're crazy. Crazy for you, he said, leaning in. He kissed her softly, then more deeply. It was a quiet promise between them. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead on his and whispered, I love you too. Derek smiled, a big, honest smile. Good, he said, because I'm not letting you go. Weeks passed. Derek stayed by her side all the time. He moved her into the main bedroom of the penthouse, even though she complained. No more guest rooms, he said one morning. He picked her up from her chair. Put me down, you caveman, she said, hitting him lightly. But she smiled and wrapped her arms around his neck. Not a chance, he said, putting her on the bed gently. His hands stayed on her hips a little longer. You're stuck with me now. She rolled her eyes but kept smiling. Lucky me. He went with her to every therapy session. He watched as Dr. Mira helped her get stronger. Callie didn't stand again, at least not yet, but she started to feel things in her legs. It felt like maybe one day she could walk again. "You're looking good," Derek said one day as she finished her exercises. He leaned against the wall. "Stop staring," she said, giving him a look. "Can't help it," he said, smiling. "You're amazing," she laughed. "Saying nice things won't make me move faster." Worth a tread and tossed her a towel. One evening, rain tapped on the windows. The room was quiet and cozy. They sat together on the couch under a blanket. Derek gently drew shapes on her hand with his fingers. "You know," he said, "I used to think I had everything. Money, a big company, but I was missing this. You. You're what I didn't know I needed." Callie rested her head on his shoulder. "You're getting all soft, Mr. Winslow." "Only for you," he whispered. He gently lifted her chin and kissed her. The kiss was slow and sweet. His hands pulled her closer. She kissed him back, her fingers in his hair. Everything else faded away. When they stopped kissing, Derek smiled. "Still think I'm soft?" "Shut up," she laughed, pushing him playfully. Then she cuddled against him again. His heartbeat was strong and calm under her ear. The days started to feel happy and peaceful. Callie got stronger. Her legs started to respond more and more. Derek stayed with her, planning their days, always sneaking kisses. "We should take a trip," he said one night. They were in bed. His arm was around her, somewhere warm with sunshine. Just us. Callie turned and leaned on her elbow. "Trying to sweep me off my feet, millionaire?" "Every day," he said, kissing her neck. She shivered. "Say yes," he whispered. "Maybe," she teased. "You'll have to work for it," he laughed. Challenge accepted. One cold morning, Callie sat on the bathroom floor. Her hands shook. She looked at the test in her hand. 2 pink lines. That meant one thing. She was pregnant. She stared at it, her heart beating fast. The doctors had said it couldn't happen after her accident. They said her body couldn't do it. But here it was, a tiny life growing inside her. She felt joy, but also fear. Was she ready? Would Derek want this? She hid the test in a drawer and rolled herself to the kitchen. Derek was there, humming a silly song. He poured coffee into 2 cups. "Morning, gorgeous," he said with a big smile. "Sleep okay?" he asked, giving her a kiss on the forehead. "Yeah," she said, pretending everything was normal. She took the coffee he gave her. "You sure?" he asked. "You look a little off." "I'm just tired," she said, looking away. He watched her for a moment, but didn't ask more. Later, she sat alone on the balcony. The sky was gray. Derek came over and put his arm around her. "Hey," he said softly, "you've been quiet all day. What's wrong?" Callie tensed. "Just thinking." "About what?" he asked, turning her gently. "Callie, you look pale. Talk to me." "I don't know how to say this," she said. Her hands were shaking. "Say what? You're scaring me," he said. She looked into his eyes and took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." Time stopped. Derek's face froze in surprise. Then a smile slowly appeared. "Pregnant?" he whispered. "You mean it?" Callie nodded, tears falling. "I didn't think I could. I was scared you wouldn't want." "Wouldn't what?" he asked quickly. "Callie, are you serious? This is..." He laughed happily, like he couldn't believe it, and hugged her tight. "This is the best thing I've ever heard. A baby. Our baby." Callie held on to him, feeling so happy and safe. "You really want to have a baby with me?" she asked. "More than anything," Derek said. He held her face gently and wiped her tears with his thumbs. "You, me, and a baby. I didn't know I could want something this much until you said it." Callie cried and laughed at the same time, hiding her face in his chest. "I was so scared you'd leave me." "Never," he whispered. He kissed her hair, then her lips, softly and with love. "I'm all in, Callie. Forever." They stood there, hugging each other, while the wind blew their clothes. A new and happy future was waiting for them. The big penthouse was filled with golden sunlight from the late afternoon. The tall windows showed the busy city below. 3 years had gone by, and Callie and Derek had built a life together. They had healed from the hard times and found hope. The air smelled like lavender from a diffuser, and they could hear little footsteps running across the floor. Their daughter, Sophie, ran through the living room. Her curly hair bounced, and she held a toy airplane in her small hands. At 3 years old, Sophie was full of energy. She had gray eyes like her dad, a strong will like her mom, and a giggle that could make anyone smile. Callie sat on the couch with her legs stretched out and a book on her lap, though she wasn't reading. She watched Sophie with a quiet smile, her heart full of love. Callie had gone to therapy and gotten stronger. Now she could stand more often and even walk short distances with a cane. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. She had worked hard for it. Derek leaned on the doorway, watching his wife and daughter with a proud smile on his face. "Mommy, look!" Sophie shouted. She zoomed her plane through the air and almost knocked over a vase. "Careful, you little tornado," Callie said kindly but firmly, holding the table. "You're going to give me gray hair before I turn 40. Sophie laughed and ran to Derek. "Daddy, fly with me." He picked her up and spun her around. She squealed with joy. "You're the best co-pilot ever," he said, kissing her forehead before putting her down. Sophie ran off again, her plane buzzing in the air. Callie laughed. "She's got your energy. I'm doomed." Derek came to the couch and sat beside her. "Nah, she's got your fire. She keeps me on my toes." He wrapped his arm around her, his fingers touching her shoulder. "How are you feeling today?" "Good," she said, leaning into him. "My legs are working well. I might take a few steps later, just to show off." He grinned, his eyes crinkling with joy. "You're already showing off every day." She nudged him playfully, but her smile stayed. Their life was beautiful, messy, loud, and full of love. Sophie's birth had changed everything. She was like a tiny anchor that helped them through hard times. But Callie had a secret. She had kept it for weeks, waiting for the right moment. That evening, after Derek read Sophie a bedtime story about dragons and brave knights, Callie stood in the doorway watching. "Night, Daddy," Sophie whispered, her eyes closing as she held her airplane. "Night, Bug," he said softly, brushing her hair back and joining Callie in the hallway. He smiled, a little tired. "She's out like a light. A miracle, that one." "She's a handful," Callie said, her voice quieter now. Her hands moved nervously. Derek looked at her and noticed something was different. "You okay? You've been a little quiet tonight." Callie took a deep breath. Her heart beat fast. "Can we sit? I need to tell you something." He frowned a bit but nodded. They went to the living room and sat on the couch. The room felt very still. "What's going on?" he asked gently. You're scaring me a little." Callie twisted her fingers and her throat felt tight. "I've been waiting to say this. I didn't know how. It's big, Derek." He took her hand and held it tight. "Hey, whatever it is, we'll handle it. Just tell me." She looked into his eyes and slowly said, "I'm pregnant again." The words floated in the air. Derek froze. "Pregnant?" he said quietly, as if checking if it was real. "You're sure?" She nodded, her eyes full of tears. "I found out 2 weeks ago. I didn't believe it at first. After everything, I thought Lily was our one and only, but it's real." His eyes filled with tears, too. A slow, happy smile grew on his face. "Another baby?" he said, pulling her into his arms. "Callie, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me." She cried, but this time they were happy tears. "You mean it? I was so scared. I didn't know if you'd feel the same." He pulled back and held her face, his tears falling too. "I've never meant anything more. You, Lily, and now this little one, you're my whole world." She laughed while crying, leaning her head on his. "I thought maybe it would be too much after all we've been through." "Too much?" he said, his voice full of love. "It's perfect, messy, crazy, and perfect." They kissed, their lips salty from tears, full of love. When they pulled apart, he brushed her hair back and looked into her eyes. "We're going to be a family of 4. How did I get so lucky?" "You married me," she teased, smiling through happy tears. "Best decision I ever made," he said, hugging her again. His hand rested gently on her belly. Hey, little one, your dad's already a mess over you. She giggled, swatting his arm. Stop. You'll make me cry even more. Too late, he laughed, his own tears still shining. Days passed, and the happy news became a part of their daily life. Lily didn't know what was changing, but she filled the house with laughter and fun. One afternoon, Lily pulled Callie's hand. Her airplane was left on the rug. Mommy, up! Park! Callie looked at Derek, who was reading a book. You heard the boss, he said, putting the book down. Time for the park. They went outside, Lily skipping ahead. Derek pushed Callie's wheelchair because she picked it instead of her cane that day. The park was full of birds singing and kids laughing. Lily ran to the swings, her curls flying. Daddy, push, she shouted, climbing on. He pushed her, and her giggles filled the air. Callie watched, feeling something big in her heart. She had taken small steps before, but today she wanted to do more. Derek, she called. Her voice was calm, though she felt nervous. He turned and stopped the swing. Yeah? Help me up, she said, holding the arms of her chair. His eyes went wide, but he came to her quickly. You sure? Positive, she said, her face serious. She grabbed his hands, and with shaky legs, she stood up. She didn't use the cane. She didn't need it today. She stood tall, even if a little wobbly, and took a deep breath. Derek grinned, he said proudly. Once Callie took one step, then another, slow and careful. She kept her eyes on him. From the swing, Lily clapped and squealed, Mommy's walking! The park faded away. All Callie saw was Derek waiting for her with open arms. She reached him, her legs shaking, and he caught her as she stumbled into his hug. You did it, he whispered, hugging her tight. No cane, she said, out of breath. Just you. He laughed happily and lifted her for a moment, then set her down. You're unstoppable. Lily ran over and grabbed their legs. Me too. Hug. They picked her up and hugged her between them. Her giggles danced in the air. That night, after Lily went to bed, Callie and Derek stood on the balcony. The city lights sparkled below. His arm was around her waist and her head rested on his shoulder. 2 kids, he said softly. Think we can handle it? With you? She said, smiling. Yeah, we already have proof right here. He nodded and touched her stomach. Love isn't about being perfect, is it? No, she said, looking at him. It's about this. Us. Believing in each other. He kissed her deeply. The night wrapped around them like a blanket. A family, not perfect, but full of love, standing together as the stars twinkled above them. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.